Well, welcome everybody. JoAnne Hamberg from the Real Estate Exchange. I've been in real estate almost 40 years and we're located in Lunenburg. And I'm lucky today to be joined by attorney Len Foy. Len, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I would love to. So yes, my name is Len Foy and I am a real estate attorney. Our main office, our headquarters, if you will, is located at 402 Amherst Street in Nashua, New Hampshire, Suite 100. I've been practicing law for just about 30 years, admitted in a number of places, including the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the state of New Hampshire, most notably, because I think those are the two jurisdictions where we do the majority of our work. But also I'm licensed in Maine and also Connecticut and Vermont. So we do real estate transactions pretty much throughout New England.
That's
And
awesome.
that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. And you have a great team and we love working with them. So today we're talking about mobile homes in Mass versus New Hampshire. And, one of the biggest things, difference with purchasing a mobile home in Mass versus New Hampshire is how they're handled. In Massachusetts, they're considered personal property, and in New Hampshire, they're considered real estate. Can you elaborate a little more about that?
Absolutely. So just JoAnne, just work with me here. Am I maintaining the appropriate eye contact? Because I'm just looking at my camera. Am I coming off?
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay, good. All right, wonderful. So yes. So, and this is a trap for the unwary because even recently I was involved in a transaction involving a mobile home in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And that type of a transaction needs to be approached very carefully because in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, even though it feels like real estate and it's going to be somebody's home, it's not technically real estate. So a lot of your conventional mortgage lenders are going to struggle with that kind of financing. We know of the lenders that can handle that financing, but you just need to be very careful if you're buying a mobile home in Massachusetts that you've got the right team in place because not every bank, credit union, or mortgage lender is going to be able to finance that acquisition because, as you know, it's a home, but it's considered technically to be personal property. So the mortgage.
I was just going to add. That's going to add to that. One of the biggest things is in Massachusetts, we only do like a bill of sale, or if it's a brand new mobile home, we'll do a certificate of origin. But that is usually when the home is located in a mobile home park, because the home itself is treated separately than the land. And in New Hampshire, they're treated the same as you would purchase a piece of land, as they would have a deed. They do a title search. So there's a lot more involved between the two states.
Absolutely. And in fact, that's an important distinction because we handled another transaction recently, manufactured housing, but actually sitting on deeded property. So that is real estate. So that will involve a deed and possibly a mortgage if the buyers are using a mortgage to purchase the property. So yes, the distinction that you raise about being in a mobile home park is critical because basically what you're buying in that case is you're buying the mobile home itself. You're not purchasing real estate.
Yeah, and like I said, in New Hampshire, they normally do a title search even if it's in a park or community. So, one of the people ask me all the time, should I hire an attorney? I know we never like to say you don't really need an attorney, but in Massachusetts where it's personal property, a lot of times I think it's more of a preference than a requirement. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that, you make a good point. I still think that it's important to have an attorney involved because I think you need the attorney to review and possibly prepare the bill of sale, which becomes a fairly important document. There is some title work to be done. We'll typically do what's called a UCC search. So there's still a way to record what's called a UCC against that mobile home, which is basically just a document that says to the world who happens to be conducting a search, hey, that mobile home on Elm Street in any town USA, or in this case, Massachusetts, we have a mortgage or we have a UCC against that mobile home. So a UCC is essentially like a mortgage on personal property, whether it be a mobile home, a tractor, an automobile. So we conduct that UCC search as well. So,
And just for our viewers, a UCC search is a Uniform Commercial Code, and it can be searched online. Anybody can search it. You just need the property address or the current owner's names. One of the most difficult things with a mobile home in Massachusetts is being able to follow the title because they're not recorded at like the Registry of Deeds. I know I have years and years of files downstairs. So I probably have my own registry of deeds for mobile homes downstairs, but there is really no way to follow the title on who previously owned it or owned it before to make sure that there's no lien. So it's really important to do that UCC search, no matter who's purchasing it.
it totally is, and I think finally, not to oversell it, but another role that a closing attorney would play in that transaction would be to organize the closing figures, okay, to prepare a HUD or a settlement statement or some kind of a disclosure that captures not only the sales price, but any utility charges and also park rents. Typically, there's typically some reimbursement or some proration that occurs there. So, a real estate attorney will be able to prepare that HUD or settlement statement with the sales price and reimbursements and prorations, and not only collect incoming funds from the buyer, but also make disbursements to the seller, to the agents, to the park. So I still think that, even though you don't have the title search aspect of it, there's still a lot of other things that attorney can do to facilitate the transaction and make sure that the closing is a smooth closing.
Absolutely. I mean, and you can also get into how they're going to hold title. I've had folks, purchase even a mobile home with a bill of sale and, set it up with rights of survivorship written right into the bill of sale or by joint tenants with rights of survivorship or tenants with entirety, so that when one of them does pass away or moves on, automatically their share would go to the other party or to go to their heirs. So it is important to have that discussion with an attorney. We always advise to use an attorney because that's not my job or my team. So what is the biggest difference like with closing costs? There is quite a bit of a difference between Mass and New Hampshire for expenses. Like the tax stamps, we don't have that in Massachusetts on the mobile homes, but in New Hampshire we do. Can you go into detail a little bit about the expenses in New Hampshire?
Absolutely. And so in Massachusetts, of course, you'll just pay a closing fee or an attorney's fee. And of course, we'll make sure that that's priced right so that we keep the cost of the transaction down for our clients. But you won't have title insurance. So that's an expense that you avoid in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And of course, if you're using a lender, not to go back to that subject, but if you're using a lender, that lender will typically preside over the closing process themselves, and they may even be the ones to prepare the final disclosures and the final documents and actually conduct the closing. So in that case, there may be no role for the attorney to play. In New Hampshire, you've also got a title or closing or attorney's fee or settlement fee, but you've got title insurance too, because in New Hampshire, a mobile home is considered to be real estate or manufactured housing, whatever your terminology is. So not only will there be a title examination or a title fee or a closing fee, if you will, but there will also be title insurance. And as always, you can call our office and obtain a quote. Lots of people pay cash for mobile homes in New Hampshire, so there's no lender's title insurance, just owner's title insurance. But if there's a lender involved, then there would be a closing fee, lender's title insurance, owner's title insurance, and yes, JoAnne, as you pointed out, transfer taxes.
The recording fees and the transfer tax. And the transfer tax, how much is it in New Hampshire right now?
It's $15 per $1,000 of value being conveyed, divided in half. So
$7.50 a piece. Yeah.
Yep. So I got my calculator right here. So let's say we have in New Hampshire, let's say we have a $150,000 mobile home. I would do 150 times 15, and then I would divide that by 2. Total transfer tax of $2,250. The buyer would pay $1,125 and the seller would pay $1,125. So
it's a significant difference in the two states. Yeah.
It is.
And the other thing that I find interesting is when you are in New Hampshire, your mobile home is taxed. So a lot of the homes in New Hampshire, they'd be in a community. The community is taxed as a whole, but the
Mhm.
individual owner also has a separate tax on the mobile home. It's usually not really high, but
Right.
it is there. But I do also find that the lots are a little bit larger in New Hampshire, a lot of the
Mhm.
cases in this area. And the lot fees or the community fees is usually a little bit less than here. So I guess it just evens out in the long run.
That's interesting, JoAnne, because I wasn't really sure about that. So on a mobile home, say in Lunenburg or Chelmsford, Massachusetts, is there a property tax bill that gets paid to the community, or is it basically just
The
part?
community, yeah, the community gets taxed as a whole,
Mhm.
and that's usually included as part of the monthly community fee that the residents pay. So
Gotcha.
say you have 100 people and it's $10,000, they'll divide that as one of the expenses for the residents to pay, but it's not something that they can technically write off.
Mhm.
As we're in New Hampshire, they're individually taxed from the town.
Yep. And
And
and and I love this dialogue because JoAnne, you've done so many of these, and you have so much expertise and so much knowledge when it comes to this area. But you're right, there is a property tax bill that you would have if you own a mobile home in New Hampshire. And yes, it's reduced. It's not going to be, what you might find on like, Seabrook Beach, but still you have a property tax bill in addition to the park rents. So yes, there's that.
and every community is different too. So, I mean, one of the things I always tell people, like say, well, what should I know about buying a mobile home and what's involved? And I was saying, well, some of the communities are all different. Some of the communities are 55 and older, other are all ages. And, a lot of times people say, well, if I'm disabled, can I get into a 55 and older community? And that's not always the case. A lot of the communities that are designated as 55 and older, the Attorney General has guidelines that it's an 80-20. In 80% of your community has to be over 55, where 20% can be under. And
Mhm.
it's really difficult to keep that. So a lot of communities will say, well, we keep it for like husband, wives, or domestic partners. If one's 55 and the other one's 54, they'll make an exception. But to have 8-year-old or 10-year-old children living there, it's difficult because they could lose their 55 and older designation if they end up, you let this family move in with 2 kids, but you won't let me move in with 2 kids.
Right. Right.
So it's a real tough line to cross. So you really want to check with the community on what their decision has been. I mean, I own a park in Fitchburg, and the town has regulated that we're 55 and older. So, I mean,
Mhm.
everyone's a little different, and it's something to look into. And then you have all age communities where anybody can live. And a lot of the communities are pet friendly. So you definitely want to take a minute, review the community rules so that that you're comfortable with the regulations. Um, and the other difference between Mass and New Hampshire is years ago I had an attorney draft an agreement for me. I basically say it's one and done. It's kind of like the standard offer, because the purchase and sales that we use in Massachusetts refers to deeds and lands and recording, and none of that applies in Massachusetts. But
Right.
in New Hampshire, we use a standard purchase and sales because all of that stuff, does.
Yes. Yes. And you know what else is interesting too, JoAnne? And this is an area where I think you can speak more intelligently than could I. But it's fascinating to me because it's definitely a subplot of these transactions. What typically is the process that a purchaser of a mobile home in New Hampshire or Massachusetts needs to go through? There is sort of there isn't a personal approval process, irrespective of price and financing, right? Don't you have to be approved because these parks carefully monitor the people that are moving in? I mean, what are they doing? They're checking for maybe a criminal background, maybe credit. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Every community is a little different. Most of them will do a credit check. A lot of them will do a query and a background check. And that'll be for anyone over the age of 18. You also have to look, because in New Hampshire, they do charge a fee usually. Sometimes in Mass, they don't for an application. So you'd want to look into that. And normally it can be up to approximately a 10-day process to receive park approval. And a lot of these communities will not even consider you applying for park approval until after you have a signed offer. So obviously the first thing is going to be getting pre-approved or being able to provide proof of funds that you can pay cash. And then finding a home that you like, writing an offer, and getting the offer accepted. Once the offer is accepted, your agent should be able to help you through the process of applying for park approval. And like I said, in a 55 and older community, they're going to want a copy of your ID. They sometimes in the all age community or family community, they'll ask for your ID to verify that you're who you say you are. Crazy to think that. And then, they're going to get your Social Security. They're going to ask for your proof of income. Even if you're paying cash, they're going to want to make sure that you have some kind of income that you'll be able to continue to pay for the community fee. We've had people pay cash that are cash buyers that are not working, don't have Social Security, don't have disability, they have no income coming in, and they're not going to get park approval. Doesn't matter how much money they have in the bank, or they're cash buyers and they have income, but their credit's terrible, and they deny them. So it's important to, sit with your agent, sit with a realtor that knows a little bit about mobile home parks and communities and can guide you through the process. I think it's important, we do have a question that says, what's the difference between mobile home and manufactured or modular?
I feel like you should take that one, JoAnne.
So manufactured or mobile home is what they call HUD certified. So those homes have to go through and be inspected by HUD, and they're issued a little label on the back of the home that says that it's been inspected and it meets all the HUD standards. As where a modular home has to comply to different standards. And a lot of communities, if you're going to build a home on a piece of land, they're not going to allow you to put a manufactured or a mobile home or what they call a HUD home on a piece of land, but they will allow you to put a modular home because of the difference in the requirements. Normally, a modular home will go on a standard foundation, and then you'll put your furnace and your electrical connections all in the basement. As we're a HUD certified home, everything is right on the main floor. So right off your kitchen could be your furnace and your electrical panel. But they do have, a big difference in the type of homes, they're a little different. And so if you are thinking that you can just put a mobile home on a piece of land, it's a little more involved, and you definitely want to talk to your local building inspector right away.
Absolutely. I think the only other thing I could offer about modular homes, which is kind of interesting, and I'm not an expert in this field, but I know a gentleman who does a lot of modular homes. These homes sometimes will arrive in pieces, right? Or quadrants, and they're basically assembled or fastened together, but sitting on a foundation. I don't know that they're necessarily stick built, as we say in the truest definition, but they probably would be considered to be a single family residence as opposed to a mobile home or manufactured housing. Would you agree with that distinction, JoAnne?
Well, mobile homes or manufactured homes can come in multi-sections. You can get 1, 2, 3 sections, 4. I mean, there are actually apartment complexes that are modular. The biggest distinction is they're built in a factory and not built outside. So they're built in a controlled environment, which, a lot of people will like because, like you're building a house in the middle of winter and it's snowing and it's raining and, your 2x4s and your sheathing's getting all wet and you got to work around that. In a enclosed environment, it's less chance that the property's been addressed and adjusted by the weather. And one of the biggest things, especially when you go from season changes, wood swelling and compacting, So you end up with, in many cases, more, they call it like cracks and adjustments due to the weather or frost heave and temperature changes. So, yeah, you definitely want to talk to your local building inspector before you decide on think about what you want to put on a piece of land. Or if you're going to put a mobile home in a park, you definitely want to check because there are requirements. And you would need a manufactured home installer. We are actually licensed in Massachusetts. There's only there's more and more all the time, but there is a limited number of manufactured home installers in all the various states. So you definitely want to hire someone that understands how the homes need to be constructed. When we build our homes, we put them all on concrete slabs. We had the slabs designed by an engineer. They're anchored in place, which is basically a strap that's bolted into the concrete slab that goes over the I-beams. And then you have different variations of skirting. You can get different roof pitches. The standard manufactured home is a three pitch. The homes that we do at Woodland Estates, we do a 5. Probably doesn't mean anything to anybody, but it's just the pitch of how high it is. And we like the 5 pitch because I think it makes it look more like a ranch. All our homes are double wides. It just gives it a little more homier feel, but they have some that are 12 pitch and you can have a full attic in a manufactured or a HUD home. You can do the same in a modular. So they're very, very similar. It's basically the building standards and what's required by your town that you want to check into.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I never thought that I would be building mobile homes and putting them together and ordering them and owning a mobile home park. I think it was inevitable over the years because I've sold so many of them, but it's wonderful. I love doing it. I have a couple great crews. I have a site crew that works for me and does all our underground utilities, and then I have another crew that puts the homes together. So that's what you want when you do hire somebody that can handle the whole thing from beginning to end. I'm a licensed contractor and also a licensed manufactured home installer, but not here to say that I want to do everybody's mobile homes, but that's what you want, get someone who's knowledgeable in the field. One of the things you want to think about is doing a home inspection on a mobile home. People will ask me all the time, should I have a home inspection? I mean, I always recommend it. I mean, wouldn't you, Len?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did a I did a video not too long ago as part of our social media campaign where I just made the statement that, one way to get your offer accepted or make your offer more appealing to a seller will be to waive home inspections. And I had a home inspector actually weigh in on that point of view. And obviously he wasn't too impressed. And I get it. It's a tough market right now. Maybe that's what you have to do to get your offer accepted. But let's face it, these home inspections are critically important. And I don't know, is the market different, JoAnne, for mobile homes with inspections? Like, are those inspections more likely to be acceptable to sellers? I mean, you're not inspected quite as much, but I still think that, I don't know, if you can get this inspection into your contract, you should try. I want your offer to be accepted. If nobody's offers are accepted, then, you and I are going to starve. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that buy homes, they're waiving their inspections, and they're really, they're just filled with regret afterwards because they're finding out so much about this house and they had no idea what they were getting themselves into.
Absolutely. Right? I agree. The problem is, especially with mobile homes, I mean, well, we sell everything, but the mobile home market, as soon as we list something, it's under agreement. Pretty much every one of our listings is under agreement within 7 to 10 days. We try to give ourselves a little time to market them to get people, everybody notice about the homes coming available and get as many people in as possible to give them an opportunity. But a lot of people are paying cash, waiving their home inspections. but we're here to help, and we'll do everything we can to guide you through the process and make suggestions. But ideally, if you can have a home inspection, it's good to do. We have another question. I'm sorry, Lynn. We have another question. Can you explain the difference between what a co-op park is versus a mobile home park? What's the biggest difference between a co-op?
You know, we don't run into them a lot, but I think the idea with a co-op is that not only do the owners have a unit in the park, but they also have an ownership interest in the park itself. And I'm over my skis there because that's just my understanding of it. I know the cooperatives that we have in New York and in Manhattan and New York City, that's the idea that not only do people have an ownership interest in their unit, of course, but they have an ownership interest in the entire building and the physical plant and whatnot. I'm not sure if that translates into our area. Do you see a lot of cooperatives, JoAnne?
Yeah, they are becoming much more popular. Basically, a co-op is the residents of the community are purchasing the community from the previous owner. So like I own a community now, no intentions of selling it. But if I did decide to sell it, my residents could offer to purchase the community and they would own it as a whole. So they would be in charge of like taking care of the roads and paying all the bills and trash removal and doing all the maintenance, but they would own it. And each individual resident would have an interest in a vote in any of the changes to the community. So if the park was going to go up or go down, or they wanted to repave the streets or put in more street lighting or put up a community building, the residents would be able to vote on it, which is a great concept.
Right, right. As opposed to the sort of scenario where you have park ownership or park management, and obviously everybody has, you know, some opportunity to raise issues and to weigh in, but really it's the owners of the real estate that have the final say as to what's going to happen and what's going to be done and what the rules and regulations are. It's not really a democratic process, maybe the way it is for the cooperative, right?
Yeah. So like with my community, so if I'm going to pave the streets or put in more street lighting, it's my decision. A lot of times I will let my residents say, hey, we want to do this. This is what it's going to cost. And, you know, I'm pretty open, but you don't have to be. And in a lot of communities, I mean, I notice park rents in communities, especially in Massachusetts, will average like $550 to $900. Which seems like a lot, but a lot of it has to do with location. And every community has different amenities. Some don't have anything. They're just a great location. Others have community buildings. I've been in communities where they have pools and tennis courts and shuffleboard. I mean, so many different activities. So it really depends what you're looking for. And I don't see that there's really a bigger advantage to be in a co-op or a family or a regular traditional community, as where you just have one owner. You just want to make sure that you do a little homework and see what the, I guess the reviews are for the community. The reviews are very popular.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, I think it's nice to have that say. I know just based upon what I've heard about these cooperatives or these co-ops in New York City, sometimes it's almost like mob rule. I mean, everyone has a say, and so everyone has a say, you know, and unfortunately, sometimes you wind up with a lot of frustrated student body presidents that are clashing over, you know, whether we need to repave the parking lot or repaint the hallways or, you know, or maybe ganging up on one particular resident that's, you know, making too much noise or not observing quiet hours. So, you know, pick your poison. I mean, it's maybe, you know, it's maybe not as democratic as the scenario where you've got just, you know, ownership and they're just, you know, they're running it like as they see fit. But sometimes that's better than having 300 owners.
Well, what do they say? Too many Indian chiefs and not enough Indians.
100%.
So, I don't know how.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Len. I really appreciate your time. This was great together. I think it was an awesome discussion, and I look forward to doing more of these together.
I agree, JoAnne. I love the format. I love the knowledge. I love the dialogue. And hopefully this has been helpful and informative to the people that tuned in today and the people that will watch us once it gets posted to the internet and
Yes,
beyond.
absolutely. Thank you, Len. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon.